Welcome back to the Compound Podcast. This is episode 232 of the Compound Podcast presented by Parse Rum. Our friends at Parse, go to Binny's, get your Parse Rum. A little chill in the air up there in the north. Everybody's in the north, huh?
Such a good morning.
I was in Philly this weekend. I got a little bit of that chill. Felt that chill.
You were in Philly this weekend.
In Philly this weekend. Seeing my mom. A little bit of chill in the air. It's the best time of year to get yourself a little bit of Parse and sip on it. A little 8, a little 12.
That's a fair reason for why you didn't tell us what you were doing with your life.
I was trying to get it out of him, Dakota.
Let's get right into it. Let's just get right into it. Of how, first of all, congrats. You won your third Gold Glove. Cool. No big deal. You won 3 in a row. Who cares? You didn't even tell us. We had to find out on Twitter like a couple of schmucks. We were scrolling social media, and that's how we find out that our co-host and friend is a 3-time Gold Glove winner. Care to explain, Ian? Do you care to explain?
I don't think he does. That's the thing.
There's very strict rules on
don't do this.
Able to announce these.
You're digging. You're digging. That hole is getting deeper.
Just really happy to be here, guys. It's a great episode 232 of the Compound Podcast. Just really happy to be here. Really honored.
All we ask is that you just, something cool like that. Like, you just let us know. We're your friends. You could have told us.
Hey, man, that's on me.
Or no, Dakota, what did I say? We're just coworkers. It's okay.
We are coworkers. He's treated us like coworkers lately. And it's sad. It's really sad.
You guys don't mean that, huh?
You tell us. You tell us if you mean that. If we mean that.
You don't mean that.
But Ian, for real though, congrats. I mean, 3 times in a row, like it's just like another phone call, and you're like, yeah, I know. Like, here's another one. Like, how did it feel getting 3 in a row? Like, are you going to the ceremony? Tell us the story.
I will be going to the ceremony. I'm going to New York this weekend. Be there for the ceremony in New York. It's pretty special. 3 in a row is really cool. 2 in a row was cool. 3 in a row is really cool.
Repeat.
Last year I was pretty surprised to get the call, to be honest, just with how the year went and kind of what the defensive metrics look like. And I threw the ball really well last year, but I was pleasantly surprised. This year I felt like I did a good job of throwing the baseball and tracking it down. And the numbers were in a place where I felt really good about kind of the performance out there. And so just to have it happen again is awesome. And feeling like established in left field, and that gold patch means a lot. Try to keep defending that thing.
We've definitely talked about it before, but was there a significant change you've made over the last 3 years out there that, or even, year to year, like, hey, I'm going into this year working on this. Hey, I'm going into this year working on this. And like, has there been a few times where, like when you're hitting, you get into a groove. You're like, okay, this has been, I've stacked a few days in a row. I've stacked a few games in a row. Like, okay, I think I'm really starting to get a hang of like where my body's at now. And even, defensively in the infield, like you don't think about it game by game, but you go through a week and you look back at the games and you're like, okay, like I had a really good week. Has there been times over the last few years or even this year where you're like, all right, I'm in a really good spot, or the work that I'm putting in, early work, whatever it is, like trying to throw to bases has been like, all right, it's paying off. Not even paying off, but you're seeing it change.
Yeah, I think there's been some different things. We've talked about this before, but one of the the big thing was just going out there and playing every day, like from infield to outfield, as far as like the last 3 years. Like, the second half of 21 was the first time I consistently played one position in my whole career. And so to be able to do that for all of 22, 23, and 24, like obviously that was the change, was just being able to be in one spot. But this past off season, really worked on a ton of like change of direction stuff. Like we talked about the defensive back drills a little bit, and like spending the off season talking to defensive backs coach, talking about cuts and the way that they kind of work back on balls and cut to routes. And so trying to implement that into the off-season training and off-season, just, you can run a straight line all you want, and you can do some shuttle drills and stuff. And like, we all do different things to work on agility and be explosive, but actually working on breaking at a 45 at dead stop, being able to turn your hips and get open and like do all those things, and trying to find something that in a different sport that does it as similarly to an outfielder as possible, And that was a big thing this past offseason. I feel like it helped me. But you get in a groove out there. Like, and
Right.
there's times where you're not, where you're feeling like your jumps are bad or you're in the wrong spots or you're breaking the wrong way on balls. And there's times when you feel really comfortable. I'm not a natural outfielder. So I think when you play with like a Albert Almora or a PCA or a John Jay or Hayward, like those dudes who have played outfield their entire lives, and it comes so natural to them. You kind of see, and not that they don't put in a ton of hard work because they do, but it just feels like it's more natural to them. And sometimes for me out there, I don't feel as natural. And being okay with like letting my athleticism play and backpedaling on balls or just letting it be athletic instead of trying to do what a coach has told you throughout the years, put your head down and run to a spot. Well, I'm not natural out there, so putting my head down and running to a spot makes me feel like I'm completely and totally like blind to what's happening. So just playing my game and not being afraid to might not always look pretty, but just going and making the plays how I feel comfortable doing it.
It-
That was one of the biggest changes, like going out there every day and just kind of freeing up to do that.
So say you get handcuffed on a few balls, either coming in or like on an angle. Like, do you as an outfielder kind of chalk that up as like, all right, that was just a tough read, or that was just like I ran to a spot, but I was 6 inches off? Or is it just like I need to figure out how to not get handcuffed a few times in a row?
I get pissed.
Even like,
I get mad.
right,
Like I get really upset when I don't make a play or I feel like I should have made a play. But it's the same thing as hitting. Like, and you get so few opportunities out there
right.
that like it's the same thing as hitting where you have to move past it. And I've gotten better in the last 3 years of like moving past a tough play. I made one error this year and it was charging a kind of a slow rolling ground ball and picking my head up and trying to get too aggressive. But that's one thing as an infielder, you don't with that smaller glove, you don't ever really feel like you're not gonna pick the ball up in the infield. And the plays when it's slow and it's bang bang, those aren't errors, right? Like those are do or die plays, and if you don't make it, you don't make it. In the outfield, that's when guys can really advance on you. And so that fielding it with one hand coming in is like something that's always been tough for me as an outfielder after, putting the bigger glove on and like I'm much more
And
comfortable fielding.
dealing
Yeah.
with snakes.
Yeah, snakes and bad hops out there. Like for me, like I'm much more comfortable fielding it like an infielder out
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
And so the one-handed charging thing is is much different for me out there, and that's something I still try to continually work on. And you don't get as many practice reps. We talked about that too. Like you can simulate the game as an infielder. You can have somebody hit you fungos. You can do the live fungo. Like it's really hard to simulate ball off the bat at game speed in the outfield because when guys take BP, they hit rockets or they hit high fly balls and homers. They don't hit like that. I just missed it off my hand sinking line drive. Like it just or the snap hook, like hard hit, but it's 89 or 95 off the bat, hooking down and away from you. Like you don't get those balls in batting practice in the big leagues.
Mm.
And so finding ways to simulate what you're actually going to see in game and getting that practice is something we're still working on trying to figure out and perfect. But it really is just going out there, and a lot of it is trusting your instincts and kind of being okay with it. You're not going to make every play, and it's a long season. Like that is another thing that I've gotten better at is understanding that there are going to be some balls that you mess up or
Not
get
many.
gross out
If you only
there.
have one error.
Yeah, but it's not even the errors out there. It's
No, it's
the
like the plays that aren't errors, like where
the
that
plays
should
that aren't
be.
errors, but yeah, you feel like you should have or could have caught the ball,
Or I don't
and you
know.
didn't do something right.
One more thing. Sorry. Do you? I'm sure you do. Like take pride in throwing a cut ball that like head
Oh,
high to the infielder. Where there's some times where you're like, all right, I'm gonna throw this guy out. But then there's also times where it's like I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to let him go 90 feet.
when I was a young player and bouncing in and out, I always felt like I could throw the guy out.
Mhm.
And I always felt like if I let it eat, I can, and you learn like that's not the right play.
Yeah.
99% of the time, that's not the right play. And so I've gotten so much better at throwing it through the cutoff man, but like my best throws are head high through the cutoff man, one hop into home. I'm never throwing a ball anywhere in the air, anywhere.
Dude,
second base, third base. It's not accurate. It's really hard to do. And like, I'm one hopping everywhere. And to me, that's the best satisfaction is throwing a throw head high through a cutoff man that one hops to the target. Take a lot of pride in it. And like, as an infielder, you have to learn how to do that when you get to the out, because like the bounce pass is great in the infield, but it's how do you do the extended bounce
we
pass and do it all
appreciate
the
it as
time?
infielders.
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, even in a pregame meeting, you get talked about if you're an outfielder that overthrows a cutoff man. Like that's the first thing that'll come up. Like, hey, Dakota's plays center field and trail runner, like be ready to go to second base because he is trying to show it off.
Like he loves that. Like, yeah,
100%. I'd show it off. 100%.
In a pregame meeting, that's the first thing you're going to hear about an outfielder is this guy misses the cutoff man. He gets aggressive with his throws. If you're the trail runner, take that base. And it is something, Rossi made a huge emphasis of it when he became the manager. And that was when I was playing more outfield. So I learned it pretty quick. But just from the way it impacts the game at the big league level, the difference between one out and a man on first and one out and a man on second is massive. And realizing, and I think analytics helps with this, but realizing that if that guy is getting sent, he is most likely going to be safe. Like 90+% of the time.
Everything has to go right to throw.
Yeah. And so if you make that good throw and it gets cut and you get the guy at second, or if it's low enough that it at least holds that guy, like that's a win. Like over the course of 162, if you make the right throw enough times, like you're going to get your assists. And I think that's why a lot of my assists come at second base on like quick transfers and getting rid of balls and one hopping into second and Nico making great tags. And I had more assists at home last year than I did this year, but just understand that if you make the right throw over and over again, you're going to have the numbers at the end of the year.
You said you got called. How did you find, like, what was that process like of finding out? Like, who calls you? What do they say?
Yeah, Stevie from Rawlings gives you the call and lets you know that you won. And
is his name actually Stevie, or are you calling him Stevie because it's been 3 times and you're like, oh, my guy over there at Rawlings, my third time, Stevie.
That time of the year, Stevie, huh?
Stevie's a legend. He's an absolute legend, and he gives you the call and lets you know. And yeah, it's pretty special. You never know when it's going to come, but when you get that call, it's pretty cool. You see his name on the phone and you get, oh, maybe.
Steve, it's November already, huh?
That time of year again. Ian, I have a dumb question. I listened to your interview with, I think it was like MLB. I saw it on MLB.com. I don't know who it was with. When you do interviews, are you afraid to use your mic? Like I saw you had headphones in and I just thought it was funny.
It's a good question. That was our friends at Marquee. That was our good friends at Marquee.
Okay, it was on MLB where I saw it. That's why I didn't know.
I did the interview with our good friends at Marquee, and I thought about it. I had the mic literally right next to, and I was like, I'm going to set the mic up for great audio. And then I thought to myself,
I don't think it'd look good. I think it
probably looks a little too like prepared.
Yeah.
You got like Zach, you do a good job. Your mic's not even in the screen. I don't know how you do it.
I mean, it's 50-50 if he has his mic, let's be honest.
He probably doesn't even have his mic on.
I was rushing. It's underneath right here.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. It sounds fine, but I was going to say that's because
nice, man.
Relax.
Yeah, don't worry about the thing. We sent it to you, and we are an audio first.
Zach's mic gets set up at like a 50-50 clip. Like
I sprinted into the house, set my computer up, and sat down. Okay.
Tell people where you came from.
No, it's grinding.
Well, it's brought to you by Bruce Bolt, though.
Brought to you by Bruce Bolt. Zach came straight from the cage. He hit for 2 hours today.
I did not hit for 2 hours. It was a little
He sprinted right back here. He was wearing his Bruce Bolts the whole time. He might still have them on. BruceBolt.us. And we got a new thing from Bruce Bolt. We got an affiliate code. Okay. HAP. HAPP. HAP at checkout. Get you free shipping. BruceBolt.us. Use code HAP.
I like that you spelled the code HAP as if people who are listening to the Compound podcast with Ian Happ would have no idea how to spell your name.
Well, I was going to ask, can we get a spelled confirmation on that?
We got to make sure that the people know Happ?
It's not even a hard name. It's 4 letters. I mean, come on, they got to figure it out. If you can't figure out the code Happ, like, I'm sorry, I just don't think you should get Bruce Bolts then. And I know that's like going against
the point.
sponsor.
No, it's Tom. That's a great point. I've been
I don't
saying
know, because if we said that, Tom would be like, we have to cut that. Like, you're talking bad about our sponsor. We have to cut like 100%. If we said that, Tom would kill us.
Dakota's also got a good point.
BruceBolt.us code Happ. You would be shocked how many times I'm on the phone with a customer service person and there's a, what'd you say? What's that?
You said, look me up, Google me. You'll
that
figure
app?
out how to spell
Yeah,
it.
that's 3-time
APAP?
Gold Glove, GOLD,
That
gold.
hat?
But back to
HATT?
Zack hitting for 2 hours. I think we know Zack well enough to know that it's not swinging a bat for 2 hours. It's probably an hour 25 of like talking and like 1, chopping it up, 2, talking through everything he's feeling. And then it's like 35 minutes of actually swinging a bat. Is that pretty close?
Next topic.
How many dry swings do you think he takes, like next to the cage while the other guy is hitting?
Yes.
I love when he does his grip. He always interlocks his fingers when he does
Like his
his
golf swing.
feel.
Maybe that's how you should swing a bat. It's how you swing your golf club.
You think I haven't thought about that or tried it? Next.
A chill in the air, leaves falling to the ground, and football every weekend. That's what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 instantly will get $200 in bonus bets when you use code COMPOUND. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code COMPOUND and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code COMPOUND only at the DraftKings Sportsbook.
Let's get into the free agents. Let's talk about it.
Well, we should probably start with the World Series, Ian.
You're right.
No, we're good. Free agency. Here we go. Next topic. That sounds great to me.
I thought for sure you were going to say, like, we should probably talk about Yankees Dodgers, but you go, let's get into free agency. I was like, wait a minute.
That's my bad. That's on me. I got a little ahead of myself. World Series ends, game 5. Yanks are up 5-0. Couple miscues before you know it. Dodgers win. Series over. Tom was really sad. I think all the Yankees fans were.
I have a question really quick.
Yeah.
So even when Judge dropped the ball, even when they score 1 run or whatever, I was still just like watching the game. I was like, like they can get out of it. They're good. Like it's all whatever. Just get a ground ball. And even when they had 2 outs, Cole punched 2 in a row, bases loaded, nobody out, 5-0, punches 2 guys. It came undone so quickly. And that was the thing where it was like, you're watching it unfold and they're up 5-0. And then all of a sudden, if you went to the bathroom, maybe didn't pay all that much attention and you came back and it was 5-3 and then it was 5-5, you were just like,
I think what's crazy, like all the talk obviously is about Cole not covering first or like Rizzo not running to first, whatever. It's beating a dead horse at this point. But yes, as a pitcher, it is like ingrained in your brain, like ground ball to the right side, you instantly take off. What I thought was weird is like he did take off to first and then he shut it down. Like that's what I thought was weird. It's like he got like halfway and then stopped and looked at Rizzo. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why'd you stop? Like that was what blew my mind. It's not like he like froze on the mound and just looked. Like he was starting to do it and then he's like, nah, Riz has got it.
If I had to guess, again, I have no idea. I'm sitting on the couch watching. I bet that he was just so mentally and physically gassed after that inning where he was just like, all right, like I got a ground ball. Like, okay, here, like, oof. And he was like, oh no. Like, I mean, it happens really quickly, obviously. Like he spent honestly, no, he didn't spend his whole gas tank because he went out for another 2 innings after that, which was absolutely insane. Still throwing 98 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But high stress innings they're hard on the body and the mind. Like again, Cole is top 3 pitcher and base. Like, it's just you just chalk it up to like.
I think that's one where Gerrit Cole is one of, and there's a select few people that can do this and succeed at it. Gerrit Cole is someone where he might throw better pissed off. So he's probably so pissed after that inning. He's like, I'm going out there and I'm going to just strike out every guy I see. And like you could see even when he got taken out, he was still just like pissed off. And I think they were winning or tied at the time. Like he's someone where he took that and just like used it to fuel in the next 2 innings, which sick to see that resiliency. But like that 5th inning was just crazy.
It was also Mookie turned it on.
Yeah.
Well, he saw a little bit of daylight there and he was moving. But that's not the play that like that didn't ruin the series. Like they still had a lead in that game. They still had a chance. Like obviously
they took it back. They took the lead back the next inning.
That's why I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know though. Because I mean, that's such like you guys know, like being in those dugouts, like that is something. Obviously, they took the lead back, like you said, and then they ended up losing anyway. But like, that's so tough to come back from. Of like, we're up 5-0. We should have been out of this still at 5. If they get out of that and it's 5-0, they win that game. I would bet $1 billion they win that game. Like, there's no world where you get out of bases loaded, nobody out, and it's still 5-0, and the Dodgers fight back.
But that made it 5-1.
That made it 5-1, and then I think there was like a couple.
Freeman came up next and then singled.
Freddie Freeman,
yeah. They still had chances to get out of it. Like obviously, if it's 5-0 there, the game's basically over. But they had kind of a weak ground ball to the left side, right? They had, or was that before? The ground ball to the left side was before that.
It was before, before.
I mean, you have chances to get out of it. It's not like the next pitch was a grand slam, but the Dodgers were a really, really good baseball team.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you had I just think you have to play so perfect against them. And like game 1, it just no lead is safe. And they were up 1 or 2 runs in game 1. Like realistically, I mean, you legitimately have to make every perfect move. You have to make every perfect play. Like you just can't let up against them. A lineup that deep and a bullpen that deep. Like, and again, I think they were the best team on paper all year. They were the best team. Like, I don't know. I just thought the Dodgers. I mean, watching the series was just like, I mean, this lineup on paper, a game's not played on paper. The lineup doesn't stop.
Another big one, like I gave credit to Cole for the resiliency, like Blake Trinan going 2 1/3, like your closer going 2 1/3. But the most impressive part to me was he's in his like 3rd inning of work. He only threw 2 1/3, but his 3rd up down of work. And he's facing I forget who he was. He walked somebody and he was like, it looked like he lost it. Like he was throwing like spinners up there, wasn't anywhere close to the zone. Dave Roberts takes a mound visit and you could see Trinan just like, no, like I'm not, like I'm staying in, like I'm good. Like I'm going to get this guy. And he throws Rizzo. Like we love Rizzo, friend of the pod. He threw him like the perfect 3 pitches.
Yeah,
like
disgusting sequence.
Sweeper down and in. Fastball up and away, and then back foot just wipe out sweeper. Like that was, I liked that for Trinan. Like he's an older guy. I'm not sure if he has a World Series or not, but like that was cool to see of like just battling. Like that's what postseason baseball is about, is your relievers like just grinding through 2 1/3. Someone that usually only throws 1 inning.
Go get him.
It was also awesome to see Buehler in the 9th do that. Like that was pretty incredible on 2 days rest to come out, throw the 9th inning, finish the World Series.
Dude. He was sharp.
Finish the World Series for that team that he's been with for so long. Free agent now. They didn't give him the qualifying offer, but just pretty awesome for him after 2 TJs to come back and do that in the World Series that he had. But like it's amazing. Like Judge got all this flack for his World Series. Like Ohtani did not have a good World Series. Like he was not healthy. He had the shoulder and everything, but he wasn't really a factor for them. And that lineup was deep enough.
Wait, Tom, what was that? What is that? You made a face.
It wasn't really about anything. I'm watching the Nick game. It could be the Nick game.
No.
Don't bring Tom in yet. We'll get Tom.
Well, no, because Ian said Ohtani didn't have a good World Series, and Tom was like,
Ohtani didn't. He was clearly not
No.
Yeah, but he was hurt.
100%.
He was
Yeah.
compromised.
But
And they
Freddie
also have such a
Freeman
deep
was-
lineup. I mean,
Yeah.
all right. If you that look is like it doesn't matter
Here we go,
because the
Tom.
Dodgers
Here we
have
go.
1 through 9, and
Yeah,
the Yankees
right.
have basically 2 guys. So if one of the 2 guys didn't play well, tough to win the World Series. And now the other guy is going to go to the Mets. I'm doing great. We don't have to go to me. We don't have to throw it to me.
Well,
6
I
outs
would-
in an inning, and it was great. It was great. Cole pointed at first base, and I've thought about it every night since then, and I'm really happy. And we're moving on. Free agency. A lot going on with that. Such an interesting topic.
I want to talk about Cole and this. So Cole had an opt-out, and the Yankees could void the opt-out by adding 1 year 36 at the end of his deal.
Is this a
I
common
think-
thing? I had never heard of this before.
No, I don't think it's very common. I have actually never heard of. I'm sure it has happened before, but I've never heard of an option that can be voided. But I think it would have taken him to 5 for 180 or 6 for 1 or 4 for 180 or 5 for 180. I think 5 for 180 maybe. Would have
Didn't
taken
they,
the total.
Wow.
Total
didn't they add the
guarantee?
year or no?
So what happened was just today they agreed to go back to the original deal before he opted out with kind of maybe they made a verbal agreement, but the theory is with an agreement to talk about extension moving forward. So that leads me to believe
That'll end well.
Well, it leads me to believe, are they saying, hey, let us tack on a couple more years and you can pitch in as long as you want to lower your AAV so that we can go make a play at Soto? Like if this dude wants to retire a Yankee, he wants to be there. He didn't want to go back out and, because he could have got Wheeler and Scherzer and Verlander were all signing 40+ million a year contracts, albeit a shorter term. But Gerrit Cole could have gone out and done 40 a year on a 4-year deal. Somebody would have done that for him. And so is the conversation, hey, let's give you a few more years and we'll tick your AAV down, but we'll get you more guaranteed. And then we can go out and sign Soto or somebody else and make this it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if he wants to retire a Yankee and wants that legacy and especially coming off a World Series loss like that, like, hey, I want to win, it'll be very interesting to see kind of what it looks like.
Can you explain what you mean by guaranteed? Because aren't MLB contracts all guaranteed?
Yes, but so let's say that he opts out and they say we'll void it. Now he's at something like a $36 million AAV, average annual value, which is what impacts the luxury tax number for the team. And he's guaranteed 180 million. So instead of having that contract, if they tack on 2 more years at 25 a year instead of 36, that's 50 million guaranteed instead of the 36 million guaranteed, but it stretches it out over a longer term and would lower the average annual value of the contract. So he could get more total dollars on a longer term, more years, more dollars, but lower per year. It helps the Yankees create a little bit more room up against the luxury tax and guarantees Gerrit more money.
And he's also, like you mentioned, like Scherzer and Verlander, he'll be a free agent at age 38, which again sounds old, but like Verlander and Scherzer were still throwing at that age very well. So like they were still getting those $40 million contracts. Like if he's still shoving at age 37 season, there's a very real possibility another team is like, hey, we'll give this guy 35 million or 40 million for 1 year of like Gerrit Cole, even at the latter stages.
So right now he's guaranteed through 37. So let's say they give him 38, 39, and it's 36 a year. So let's say they give him 38, 39, and 40. They add 3 years at 30 million a year. They add 90 on the back end of that contract. Like that's way more money guaranteed for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it brings down the average annual to call it 30, I don't know, 33 or something, or 31. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that works for both sides. Maybe that's a way for him to pitch forever and get a little bit more money and them actually be able to go out and have a little bit more room, because it is like when you have three $300 million contracts on the field, like to add more money, you have to do a crazy deferment. Like you have to figure out a way to kind of move money around to get so that the team isn't paying just absurd amounts of money over the luxury tax.
Whenever these talks come up and like these contracts are discussed, it just reminds me that I never want to be an agent because I'm like, I don't even understand
You don't want 4% of.
But I'm saying like
$1 zillion.
These deals are already finalized and like and I'm like, I still don't understand what happened. I'm like, I don't know what he did. Like, how did he do this? So like, I'm like, I wouldn't put me at the table negotiating for you because I don't even understand. I'd be like, hey, we'll just take a lot of money. Like, just give us a lot of money.
Just
we want it now.
Yeah, bro. Like, whatever. Yeah.
Like, hey, 10 million a year sounds good. Like, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're Gerrit Cole's agent, Gerrit Cole comes out with like a 10-year, $12 million contract. Like,
Tom would love me. You'd love me, Tom. You'd love me. Soto, I'd get Soto back to the Yankees for 15 years, $1 million a year. 15 for 15. We're in. Let's do it.
It's going to be the free agent class is pretty good. It's not the deepest ever, but it's a really good class. And teams that are looking to make like impact moves, they're out there.
Can I give you some names of free agents?
Please.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong on these. I was doing this research and, you know, I feel like there's always like there's always these weird things of like, oh, they could still technically be under contract. I don't know. That's why I'm not an agent. This doesn't have any relievers in it because I feel like there's just always a million relievers out there that could be good. Juan Soto, Christian Walker, a favorite of ours, a very underrated player. Pete Alonso, Willie Adames, Alex Bregman, Anthony Santander, Marcell Ozuna, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, Max Fried, Michael Wacha. Like those are some pretty big hitters right there.
Teoscar Hernandez.
Like those are some big bats and arms. Like
I think Ozuna they picked up his player option or team option, I believe it was.
That's where I wasn't sure. I was like, I feel like some of these could have options, but like those are some like big names that are going to get I think Willie Adames is going to get a ton of money. Santander could get a ton of money. Like Corbin Burns, he's a top 10 pitcher in baseball. Like he's going to get a ton of money.
Obviously, you have the top end pitchers. So you have Burns, Fried,
Snell, Wacha,
and then you have Wacha just signed with the Royals.
Okay.
So then you have Flaherty, you have
Buehler.
Snell.
Didn't you say Buehler?
You have Buehler. So there's pitchers out there, and then you have corner outfield bats. You have Santander and Teoscar Hernandez, like middle of the lineup, corner outfield bats. You have Willie Adames, shortstop, Bregman at third. Then you have Pete Alonso and Christian Walker at first. Glaber's out there at second. The Braves just let d'Arnaud walk, so d'Arnaud behind the dish. Like there's dudes out there, and it'll be really interesting to see where people land and who ends up spending the money. But
I think
Adames, impact guys.
I think Adames is an interesting one because of his age. Like when I was looking at him and Bregman, like 29, 30. One of my gripes when looking at it, and we've talked about this before, was like seeing the ages of all these people in their free agency. It's all like 32 to 36. And I'm like, this is just gross. Like other than Juan Soto, of course, but like let people get to free agency sooner. Like Willie Adames at 29, that's a really young free agent. Like that's the crazy part. That's a very young free agent.
Yeah. I mean, Santander's 30, Willie Adames 29. I think Bregman's 30.
Christian Walker's 34 though. Like I feel like
Christian Walker got there a little bit later because he was blocked coming up. So he's a little bit older. Teoscar's 32. So that's just like the length. Some of those contracts, that's going to be the interesting part is the length that teams are willing to go for some of those guys. But they are all impact dudes. And like I think the Red Sox probably go spend some money. We'll see if Detroit goes and spends a little bit of money with that young group. I think Baltimore is going to be back out there spending money because they have that good young group. And
when they lost Santander and Burns. Well, currently don't have Santander and Burns, who are vital parts.
Yeah, and they have that good young group with a lot of guys under control, plus new ownership. Like it'll be interesting to see how they spend. And then you obviously have Dodgers,
Cubbies,
Dodgers, Mets, Yankees.
There's going to be a lot of money going around.
But Cubbies news.
You should be an agent, Dakota.
I wouldn't know what to do. I told you my guys would get terrible deals. I'd be fired within a week.
Well, Cubby news, Belly opted in.
Huge.
So Belly decided to stay, which is awesome. I think with Pete, he's going to be playing center field. Belly's probably playing a lot of right field, and Say is probably DHing a lot. Belly's won a Gold Glove in right field. He's really good out there. Obviously, middle of the order for us, and an amazing run producer. So I was excited that he's coming back.
I have a comment on the Cubs, and it's tough for Ian to weigh in on this. This is more of a question for Zack. I find it interesting that I feel like a lot of buzz is around like Cubs need a first baseman. Cubs need a first baseman. I'm like, Michael Busch just had a pretty dang good year. Like, I feel like that's what I'm hearing a lot when I see tweets. It's like, oh, are the Cubs going to go get a big first baseman, a big bat? And it's like, Busch had a pretty good year to where I don't feel like that's a glaring hole.
Why is this for me?
Because I just feel like Ian commenting about his own team is tough. Like, he can't be what's he going to be like? Oh, we need a first baseman. Like, no, he's not. Or like, there's no good way for him to sound with giving us like an honest answer.
Dude, like he had didn't he have 20 homers, Ian?
Yeah, he had 20 pumps. Rookie, he had 20 pumps. He played great defense at first base. Dude's a stud. He gets on base. He walks. He's still like, he had the rookie really, really good. Kind of had to make an adjustment in the middle. I was going to say that. Finished really well.
When we went to you guys, I remember texting you. I was like, man, like Busch is out here grinding before on the machine. Like, I think it was 2 out of the 3 days, maybe. And I think that was like kind of the struggle he had during the year. And, when someone like him is a rookie or whatever, and he's given the, hey, you're going to sink or swim, and you start to sink and then you come back up like that, that's hard to do, especially as a young guy when you feel like, I'm not sure how he felt. I don't know him, but like, I'm sure that he felt a little bit, like kind of looking over his shoulder. It's like, hey, am I really going to stay here? Especially when you first struggle as an everyday guy. And again, for him to play every day, figure it out, like I feel like that's going to be huge for him moving forward.
Because especially he was like a under the radar move for the Cubs. It's like, oh, they got this young guy, like let's see what he can do. And like,
yeah,
pretty good rookie year.
That was a really good pickup by you. I mean, it's kind of like you said, Dakota. What trade was
it? Was for like a top pitching, like Ferris, I want to say was his last name. It's for a pretty good pitching prospect, but it was like straight up 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, a big league ready. It's always a hit for teams that are trying to compete.
Yeah. And Bushy was a really highly touted prospect. He just was blocked in the Dodgers org by Freddie
Freeman
and Max Muncy playing third, so he couldn't play third or first, and he got like limited run when more of those guys got hurt in LA. It's just really hard to do, and so they kind of let him play every day. But one of the most impressive things is he hit lefties. He hit lefties really well. He hit lefties just at a super high clip, and he's going to keep getting better at that. Like and the defense, man, I can't talk enough about how hard he worked on defense. And he was, I was actually surprised he wasn't a finalist for the Gold Glove because he was right there metrically, but like he was really, really solid at first base, plus the bat. So yeah, I mean, and you're, like you said, Zach, in the middle of that year when Pete was playing every day and Belly, like the opportunity for Belly to come back and like, well, to look over your shoulder and say, here, this is a world in which, Bellinger's playing first and I'm not, and to just persevere and really figure it out again and finish strong was awesome to see. And he's a great dude.
He played himself into the lineup, as you said. Like, Talkman was pretty good again in the outfield. There was, as you said, the obvious move of put Bellinger back to first. He had that stretch where he struggled, but he ended up with 51 extra base hits and a 118 OPS plus, and as you mentioned, above average defense. And it's crazy to me that people are talking about trying to replace him at first base because, as you talked about, I think the most important skill, I mean, I think you guys would attest to this, having been around baseball teams, is we've all seen the guy that can get hot for 6 weeks or 2 months, but when the teams adjust to you, when the league adjusts to you, how do you adjust back? That's ultimately the number one sign of a guy that's going to make a long major league career. As we talked about, he had a real difficult stretch there for a while, and it looked like he might have played himself out of the lineup. And down the stretch, he played himself back in the lineup and said, you can't take me on the lineup. I'm your first baseman. And I think it's been interesting. The Cubs have had, Wisdom and Schwindel, and I think maybe some of these other guys have like affected how he's viewed, but he's not really in the same category. He was a first round pick, 31st overall by the Dodgers. You talked about a big trade acquisition. He's not really the same thing as those other guys. That's no disrespect to anyone else who had success at first base for the Cubs over the last couple of years. But I think almost because of that, the fans are like skeptical of his ability. But if you go look at it, he had a 3 WAR and 118 OPS plus in 152 games. Like that, if you get that every year out of your first baseman, every GM would say, "Yep, sign up for that again." Like that's
and
and obviously you only can get
Especially
better.
young under
I
team
would say
control.
He's a rookie for the next or under control for the next 5 years. Like to go through those trials and tribulations like that just goes such a long way, man.
Yeah, and he's solid, like middle of the order. You know, he hit anywhere from like 2 to middle to 5, 6. Like he's a really good player, and he's gonna be in there at first base for us.
I mean, you're not gonna say anything otherwise anyway, but like you said, he was a really good dude too, right? Like in the
Great dude
and everything. Yeah,
great dude. He is absolutely awesome.
Ian has actually said that to us offline. That is not.
No, this guy sucks.
I'm waiting for the time that Ian comes on the pod and just starts trashing guys. Be like, that guy, hate him. Terrible dude.
Michael Busch is one of my favorites.
You have said that to us. I will give you that credit. I'm always interested in free agency to see, like you said, the big boys are always going to buy, most likely. But like, I'm interested to see the teams that go all in versus the ones that kind of like play it safe and don't make any big splashes. Like I always look forward to that in the off season.
I think the thing I'm interested in this year too is last year it went so late and guys kind of got burned waiting. I'm going to be really interested to see if this year, if guys jump the market, if there's some action early. You know, you look at like deals from last year, Candelario kind of jumped the market with the Reds and got 3 for 45. And then Chapman hangs out all the way till the end and ends up getting way less than he expected. And I think it was 3 for 54. So it'll be really interesting to see if some of these guys, you know, the Soto's going to take a while. I would assume, but that market for Santander and Teoscar is going to be held up by Soto. It'll be interesting to see if one of those guys jumps the market. Same thing with Burns. Burns is going to probably take a while, and it'll be interesting to see if any of those other pitchers kind of jump the market and go get a deal while those guys are still figuring it out. That is something I will be interested to see in this free agency, just with how last year turned out.
Yeah, like you said, after last year, if anything, it might make guys a little more cautious of like, hey, waiting this long isn't always the best option. Like it doesn't always get us the best deal possible. So just seeing like, hey, we got this offer. We like this team. It's a good offer. Let's do it. See if things fire up a little sooner, which I mean, I think everyone hopes they do, because last year I feel like we were waiting for 4 months for anything cool to happen. So hopefully things heat up. Is it officially open now, or when does it like officially open where it's as soon as the World Series ends, right?
No, they had that 5-day quiet period that just ended. So I think tomorrow.
That's when things can get hot.
I think the Jordan Montgomery contract from last year is probably like the number one example of what you were talking about, Ian. Like held out very, very late, signed, had a really difficult ERA in the 6s, fired his agent. Like I wonder how many players look at a situation like that and go, I just don't want to end up like that. Like whatever I do, clearly, like not only did he not get the contract he wanted, but obviously it also affected his performance. On like, there's no doubt that I think he would go back and say like, I needed a real spring training. Trying to do spring training on the fly by yourself is almost
same as Blake Snell. Like when he first came back, It was the same thing. Like didn't have a spring training, wasn't as sharp, as finished strong, but it was same thing, Tom, of like not having spring training really affects especially both pitchers and hitters.
Like starting pitching especially.
Yeah, it's really hard to build up in the minor leagues and then like come to the big, like these guys are then having to build up in minor league games or having to travel to these cities and do this. Like spring training is amazing. Like especially like when you're established and like your routine, like you know what you're like, it is the best. And so like for those guys not to and like Kimbrel talked about it. That was like when he signed late with the Cubs, like he had never had to go through that before. Never had to go through not having a spring training and building up, and like it's a big challenge.
Yeah, he came and played with us in Sacramento. It was really cool. That was wild.
Cubbies are the first team playing in SAC this year.
Are you?
Yeah.
Wow, that would be interesting.
At least we get there. We're gonna get there before it becomes 120 degrees, which is nice.
Yeah.
Cubbies go Japan with the Dodgers, Arizona for 4 days, and then Sacramento for 3. That's how
Go
the
ahead and
Cubbies open
sweep the
up.
World Series champs. Why not?
Yeah, why not? It'll be interesting to see what they do too. I mean, Teoscar's gone. They got
They have to be playing with monopoly money because I see them listed as a chance for Soto. And I'm like, this can't be real. You can't do this. That's not, if he does that, I will hate him more than Pedro Martinez, more than Big Papi, any of them. I will hate him more than any Red Sox I hated growing up. If he goes and plays for the Dodgers,
Can you imagine that lineup with him in it, though?
Kevin Durant with the Thunder lost to the Warriors and then went and signed for the Warriors the next year. That will make me so mad if he does that. That lineup, yes, would be insane though.
I do.
That would fire me up, Tom. That would fire me up with you if he went to the Dodgers. The Mets, I can understand. They will pay him buku bucks, but the Dodgers, I can't live with that.
It is.
I kind of think it's only the Yankees and the Mets. Passan talked about that he doesn't really want to go to the West Coast again. He's already been in California. That's a long way from his home in the Dominican Republic. So it seems like he likes New York, and obviously both teams have the money to go deep into the wallet. So if you're asking me right now, I would say I think Juan Soto is going to be a Met, but I hope I'm wrong.
New York.
I hope I'm wrong.
You better be wrong.
I think it's very interesting when you hear these articles come out because how much of it is the agent making sure that it seems like there's more teams involved than there actually is.
I heard that. I think I was listening maybe a podcast or saw a tweet, and they said that like they'll have people just like tweet out that like this team's interested, and then like they'll ask that team, and they're like, we've never been in contact with this guy. But like if you think about it, obviously like that's good business. Of if the Yankees hear, oh, Soto's close to a deal with going back to the Nationals, they're like, we need to up our offer because he's about to take another offer.
I don't see. It's really hard to pay a guy that much money. I get it. But like some of these other teams, like the Tigers, the Nats, like they've run big payrolls before. Get in there. Sign yourself a Juan Soto.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Soto's the easiest one to justify as an organization of giving him insane amount of money for insane amount of years. One, you look at his production, but two, his age of like, this guy's 26 years old or whatever. I think he's 26. Like, pay him whatever he wants. He's going to produce every single year and he will be worth the money, guaranteed. Like, I feel very confident in saying guaranteed he'll be worth whatever he's paid.
I mean, you go back and you look at Harper, look at Machado, look at some of these deals that at the time were like, who's going to pay this guy? Those deals generally work out pretty good.
Yeah, because you're not talking north of 400 million unless it's like, hey, this is a generational talent.
Yeah, first ballot. Let's get the people to Sloan screen time. I would like to say we're going to work really hard on guests this offseason. It's a priority for all of us. Zach's got a lot of friends, really wants to have them on. He's been telling me that. He's been saying, I really want to have my friends on.
I was telling Tom and Dakota,
He was telling his friends, not his coworkers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it.
That was too far. I didn't mean that. You're still our friend.
No. It's all right,
You're
man.
still our friend. Come on.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Some of your screen time is presented by Sloan. Sloan is the world's leading manufacturer of commercial plumbing systems. They're at the forefront of the green building movement and provide smart, sustainable, and hygienic restroom solutions by manufacturing water-efficient products, including flushometers, faucets, sink systems, soap dispensers, and fixtures for commercial, industrial, and institutional markets worldwide. To learn more, visit sloan.com.
I had a really bad one.
Oh, I was
mine
up there.
says mine's toast. 4 minutes just went down.
Mine also says 6 minutes. I don't know. Zach and I's phone just.
Did you say
Yeah,
4
I mean,
minutes?
We can't do this if we're
down?
gonna every week.
I was on
gonna get
5.
1 minute out of you guys.
I was on 5 and I opened my phone and it said 4.
Well, Ian, you're going to win because mine is 8 hours and 2 minutes. I don't
Whoa! Welcome
8
back
hours
to
and 2
East
minutes.
Coast.
That's a heck of a day. 4:55
Midwest.
for me. 4:55 felt like a win the whole way. Maybe Tom, if you think about it over the next 7 days, get your screen time fixed. Go to the Apple store. I don't know. I mean, this is
Yeah.
Can I
need you
expense
make
that to the company account if I take it to the Apple Store?
yes.
Okay, great.
We need this back. That is episode 232 of the Compound Podcast, presented by our friends at Parse Rum. Go to Binny's, get your Parse. It's the perfect time of year for it. And go to brucebolt.us. Code HAPP. Spell it. HAPP. That's exactly right. That's episode 232. We'll see you next week.